Hey, everybody. Welcome to an unexpected podcast. And on today's unexpected podcast, we have an unexpected treat. As you will see in the bottom window, there are three faces all sitting in the same room, one of whom we haven't seen in a long time. We've got Rob and Rainier and Devin all in the same room, all at the same tournament that they just played today. Guys, where were you? Tell us where you were and what you were doing.
We were in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We just attended a 4-game, 1.5-hour per game tournament at 600 points against Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And yeah, it was run by the Philadelphia Strategy Battle Game Group. Alistair Amanoff ran it. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it was called the Battle of Lancaster Fields. I think it's the official title.
Yep. All right. So we won't say how you did yet. We'll keep the suspense going for that. But just as far as what we're going to do today, we're going to do something a little unusual. We're going to be talking through tournament lists today, and after we discuss with these folks how they did at their tournament, we're going to go through their tournament lists and basically talk through how they came up with them. And then once that is done, and we've heard all the thrilling stories from the tournament, we're going to have Evan put up the army list builder that we use called Army Builder on the screen. And he's going to talk through his process, and he's going to kind of unpack that process in real time and talk through kind of the building of a list as he does it. And since we're very army list focused this time, we're not going to do a listener army list since we're talking about how we do our army list. We will be doing that next time. So please keep sending stuff in. But with that, why don't you guys talk through how things went? And so tell us all briefly how your first game went, guys.
All right.
Why don't we start with Devin, go to Rainier, and then let's talk about Rob.
Well.
Should we say what we brought first, or?
Yeah, well, why don't you say in a general sense what you brought, and then we can go through the list in detail once we kind of once we've gone through the crowing and poking fun face.
So my army, I actually was inspired by Henry, who was talking about the Helm's Guard list in one of the podcasts or two ago, and basically I brought what he was terrified of. And I'm like, all right, see what all the fuss is about. It's 600 points, and yeah, I guess I'll go into my thoughts on it at the end of all this and what I played again, kind of thing. But yeah, that's what I brought. So it was basically Helm, a captain, and 30 guys. So all foot. I had 3 cav models, and everyone had throwing spears except for like some of the cav. So.
All right, and just in a brief summary, how did you do in your first game? You have to do blow by blow, but so what did you play and how did it come out?
Yeah, no, so my first game, oh man, this is the only one where I'm having trouble remembering what army he brought. It was John Sigsby. Do you remember?
Was he your first game? I think.
Yeah, John Sigsby was my first game.
Oh yeah, he got the Mirkwood Rangers.
Mirkwood Rangers. Yeah, that's right. You know what? To be honest, I think one of the reasons I did well against him is because he decided not to be a jerk and keep backing up and shooting.
He's a nice guy.
Because I asked him, I'm like, so I'm just curious, why didn't you back up and shoot? Like he did a little bit, like he didn't deploy in my face, but he didn't like keep doing it. And and I was like, oh, you only backed up like once. And
what scenario was it?
It was God, what scenario?
Fog of War, right?
Fog of War. It was Fog of War.
Well, that may explain part of it, right? I mean, there's only so far you can back up.
Yeah, on that note, so the tournament used a veto system. So we all played the same pool, and then vetoed obviously each player what they wanted. Yeah. So we're gonna have different scenarios for the different rounds in some cases.
Sounds good. So you played Fog of War, and how did it come out then?
I mean, tactically, it makes sense that he didn't back up and shoot all day because he had to go get a terrain piece and he had to eventually attack my guys. But I mean, to be honest, Helm ended up butchering the captain, then Tariel the very next turn, like killed them both. And he did Helm hammerhand things. It pretty much like clobbered through his army, but he actually sliced through a lot of mine. He broke me. And he actually, he like shot, I want to say like got 7 models off the board, and then his list was actually hammering through mine. The fight 5 was eating me, because the thing was Fog War kind of had me split up. So Helm's leadership bonus of +1 fight didn't confer to all my troops. So where I wasn't, he was eating through me. So I would actually say he did pretty well. It was a closer game than the score would let you believe.
Gotcha.
So
So Rainier,
and he,
how did it go? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he really played nicely, right?
no, he did. Yeah, you didn't,
Because he could have
yeah,
easily been like Legolas, the horse's
Yeah.
helm, and I sit on the back corner and shoot you
well,
all
so
game, right?
his strategy,
Yeah.
he said he didn't fire Helm's horse also because he was trying to like just win my captain, which was the only obvious target for, because you can't choose my general. But yeah, Helm in the beginning, I did expect him to shoot at Helm's horse, and so I did have him hiding behind trees and stuff initially before combat lines met, because I fully was expecting that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it was. I think like the game, all the games I had, everyone was just so nice. So
Oh, it was definitely
yeah,
a great
this is like one of the most like pleasant tournaments. Like, I know it's a weird thing to say, like you'd like to say every single tournament, it's like all your players are wonderful opponents, but like these
even
guys really
the
were
top
wonderful.
players were, and it's at a historical convention actually too. So it's like the whole feel here is most. I think more than half the people just came to have fun. Of course,
Oh
when-
yeah. So are you guys at
It's Fall In.
Fall In. Yeah, you guys are
Yeah.
Fall In. Okay. All right. So that brings back some memories of my historical days. I've been to many a Fall In. And are you at the Lancaster Host Resort, or are you someplace else?
Yeah, we're at the Wyndham Lancaster
Wyndham
Resort.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Wyndham. Okay. So you're
Lincoln.
not at the old Lancaster Host Resort, which was where we used to do it back in the day. But all right, that's cool. Yeah, it's good to see Fall In is still
Seems
going.
like the
There's-
iPad forgot
There we
about
go.
Rob.
I just
Yeah,
had
there
to
we
pop
go.
my head and reminded I was here.
Yep. All right. So Rainier, how'd you do on first
Okay,
game?
so I brought It's a Shock, Evil Men. I've won tournaments with, I would say, all the evil men besides Dunland and Sharky's Rogues. So for that reason, I brought the Dunlandine Legion, and I had never played them ever. My first game was actually a practice round with them yesterday, and I really liked them. So my three guys were Thryden, Girl, and what is his, the Oathmaker. And because you max out your warband, I got to get a lot of the elites in the list too. And I just loved it. Lord have mercy. Was it fun to play? So it was good. It went under my wheelhouse because it's evil men. You're forgiven because you have a lot of models, and it's good. But my first game was Assassination against Khan with chariots, and it was a chieftain, a king on chariot, both on chariots, and then Kamul on Felbies. So I was like, holy smokes, there's nothing that can actually counter this. Having played Khan a lot before I moved abroad, I knew you just focus on the archers, horsemen, and just break them. And that's what I did. It was a very, very, very close game. I won, I want to say 9 out of the 10 roll-offs, and I attribute that to winning. And I barely won. I think it was like a 10-8.
And actually, I know his opponent admitted to making one mistake of thinking Khan can outshoot better than it looks, because every casualty it takes is devastating.
And that's what because I used to play them. I knew you can't do that. I just had 5 bowmen, and I put them up with like a fence in the way, and he thought I'm gonna shoot him, get him come.
Yeah.
He killed 1 bowman. I killed 3 horsemen. And
Yeah,
that really
he's
tips
like,
the
all right.
scale when you have like 20, I think 21, 22 models. It
Yeah.
really tips the scale.
Yeah.
So I contribute, I guess, my victory to knowing Khan, but also just the dice roll. I never say, oh, dice won me the game or lost me the game, but dice really did win me the game that time.
Gotcha. So, all right. So let's go to Rob. And Rob, why don't you tell me what scenario you played, which is the one thing I don't know. And then I'm going to tell people how Rob's first game went. And the reason I know this is because I was at a local game store, playing some games here just on the local scene. And Rob was texting how the game was going in live stream, and I was responding. So I will read through that to explain to people how that game went.
So my mission was Assassination. I brought my standard, Gondor with Faramir, Hurin, and Fellowship Boromir, and I'll go over.
But it
obviously.
wasn't so standard.
It wasn't so standard, and it was of the 3 options that I had posited for myself to bring into this tournament. It was exactly the wrong one, and I blame you for pushing.
Yeah,
me.
because he was like, which list should I take? And I was like, I really suggest this one. And every single time,
I really
something bad
suggest
went
this
through.
one at the tournament where we will be in direct
suggest this one.
competition.
Well, I'll go over it in the list phase, but I blame Faramir as the TLDR version of everything.
Yeah.
So it was assassination, and I was playing against Thranduil's house, so Mirkwood army with Thranduil, not on elk, but otherwise loaded with everything, and Legolas with the horse, pretty standard, and then a bunch of elves. So if you would like to start us off, what?
So this is the text stream. Rob, Faramir, 3 will resist, 6 nature's wrath, 4 highest. I hate this model. Rob, heroic strike, 1 loses combat, loses horse, loses wound. B, sounds like user error to me, Rob. Rob, lost all my combats, every one. Rob, should have taken Elisar. This is just embarrassing. Rob, I just got absolutely steamrolled. Boromir, 1 on his strike, dies outright. Rob, Huron, 1 on his strike, dies outright. Rob, that's the hardest I've lost a game in years. And insult to injury, it's the guy's second event. Rob, oh man, it just went all wrong. And to make things worse, Faramir, that turd of a model, actually lived. B, he showed his quality, Denethor, you ungrateful bastard. B, you probably wish that Boromir and Faramir's place had been exchanged. Rob, yes, I wish that.
You know, maybe Faramir's intentionally bad, so we feel this way when we play.
So that pretty much sums it up. It was it kind of started with him castling in the back with Legolas, and it's assassination, and he's got Legolas, so he just has free reign on me. He had, I want to say, 8 elf bows. So we traded a few shots in the beginning. He killed some, models. I knew that I didn't have the luxury to sit back because he's going to win the shooting war with Legolas, and especially since Legolas is his assassin guaranteed. I just started by hiding all my characters behind a building, and then being like, I need that one turn where I just get in his face and then charge my entire mounted contingent of heroes, kill a bunch of models, and then get in his face so he can't get any good shots on me, and then hopefully break him and go that way. And it seemed to go swimmingly. Everybody kind of pulled around the flank. I got charges in with all 3 of my heroes, even through he had a terrifying aura up because he had the crown. And I was like, okay, I feel pretty good about this. I'm putting pressure on him. Obviously, I can't do anything about Legolas, but this is the best I'm going to be able to do here. And then it all went downhill. So he pops off Nature's Wrath. Thranduil was behind the line, but I positioned so that all 3 of my heroes could theoretically resist. And goes off on a 6. Faramir, the only model with 3 will, throws all 3, 4 highest. So he's already down 2 might, or else all of my heroes would be dehorsed, right? And I'm like, you're a turd. I hate you. I hate you so much.
Rob, if I told you once, I told you 1,000 times. Never eat cherry tomatoes while playing Gondor.
Yeah, it's just. I hate Faramir so much, but we'll go into that.
I take responsibility.
All right.
I'm so sorry.
But nonetheless, I'm thinking
I didn't suffer for it.
Yeah, I'm thinking I have 3 heroes that are going in. 2 of them have +1s to wound, and then there's Boromir who has 1,000,000 might. And I just started cascading failures. So because he had fight 6 everywhere with the palace guard near Thranduil, I was like, well, I just need to start racking up bodies. So I'm gonna strike. Strike 1, lose combat. Cool, to an elf. Strike 1, lose combat to an elf. Dehorsed. Strike, lose combat. Roll to 1, lose combat.
At that point, just stop striking.
At that point, I'm like, what the hell? So next turn, I'm like, this can't happen again. Next turn, the same thing happens. I strike 1, Boromir dies outright. I strike with Huron 1, Huron dies outright. Faramir, I didn't even bother to strike because he had no might because he's a turd. I don't know if I've said that in this podcast. And then he doesn't die. He doesn't even go down with his men.
He wanted him to die.
I mean, at that point I did, because I was like, you don't deserve to be the only model that survives this battle.
You don't deserve to be my son.
He's the only model that survived the battle.
Down to 1 model?
No, only hero. Sorry.
So
was
Faramir.
The game went downhill from there. He broke me. I didn't break him. Legolas ended up getting in on Huron or whoever, and so he got assassin points. Thranduil slice and dice. It was humiliatingly bad.
Yeah.
Great opponent. You have to take that kind of thing in stride because sometimes it happens, right? Sometimes things go wrong. But yeah, I was absolutely smashed.
So
Major loss.
after Faramir was carried back on his horse, like draped over his horse, which one of you had to tackle Rob to prevent him from jumping on a pile of wood and pouring oil over himself?
No, we were encouraging him, to be honest.
So they were both holding me by the collar as I was holding a pillow and trying to smother the model.
We were like, don't do it.
Yeah.
And I was like,
That's right.
Faramir, it had to be you, obviously.
That's the difference between Rob and Denethor, right? Denethor wanted to burn himself. Rob just wanted to burn Faramir.
Well, he definitely, I know his quality, and they are few. So
Yeah.
or his uses, and they are few.
I feel like you should just one day actually get a spare Faramir model and just actually burn it. Just film it.
I think I might have a couple spare Faramirs. I'm just gonna have one that I hit with a hammer every time he does something
Rob,
wrong.
who said it had to be a spare Faramir? Just burn your Faramir. Never use him again.
This is the second time in a row where I've thought, how bad could it be?
Yeah, but I'll still encourage him next time. I'll be like, you should bring them. Go for
Yeah.
But to be fair, Rainier, the theory was sound, and we'll go over it. We'll go over it in the list part.
At the 600.
Yeah.
That Rainier actually points out, I think the real lesson from this experience is when you go to a competitor at a tournament and say, I have two options for lists to bring, A or B. If he says A, you take B.
Yeah, I mean, the lesson from today is never trust your friends.
Yes.
Exactly. Don't even make friends, to be honest.
Why do you need them?
Well, as they say, enemies make dangerous friends.
Well, but I think we also know that clearly Rainier is not my friend, because friends don't let friends play Faramir.
That's true.
All right.
Anyway, so my game one was a complete smashing. Fair play. I'm so sorry, I forgot the name. If you're watching this, you did a great job, and it was great. Actually, it's a great game, but total loss on my part. Okay. So I started off well.
All right. So why don't we briefly go through game two? We don't have any more fun tech streams to go through.
Maybe if we just do one small thing from game two.
Yeah. Why don't you each do one small thing from game two? Let us
Something in game two, Matt, happened exactly what happened to you.
Yeah.
With gold bars. So basically, I was used to it. I haven't played in a long time. I really left my whole right flank open, and I played against Celeborn, Haldir, and Boromir from the Fellowship. And I was like, oh shoot, I left my right flank open. Boromir goes in, Haldir goes in, and they're gonna heroic combat and just kill everything. For some odd reason, I already had gotten one wound on Boromir in shooting. Going for his horse, I have 5 shots too, which is nothing. 3 shots go into the combat. All of them hit Boromir. I'm hoping, praying to God, please dismount him so he doesn't do as much damage. We both go on Boromir. I'm like, okay, here we go. 2 6s. Kill him outright. And we both screamed, and the whole room was like, whoa, what was that? Mm-hmm. So it should not have happened. I again contribute that to winning the game. So I feel kind of bad because I won based off of luck. What's new?
Yeah, essentially, I guess you could almost argue.
I don't know what you played. I played domination, so it had to be one of the objective scenarios.
It was the one where
the
control. 4
capture and control,
push through, or something like that. One of the new ones. I'm not
breakthrough, maybe
breakthrough. After I killed him, it turned and he didn't have many models, and I had the models, and I got it. But he really did a good job. And if it wasn't for that, I'm pretty sure he would have won.
Yeah, and next time shoot the table over and kill Faramir.
Exactly, but I guess the 5 archers that I brought really put in the work. So,
clearly
for the con and for
damn.
They killed Boromir 3 wounds. They killed 4 Kondish horsemen. Yeah,
they killed Gullivar.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was
different.
Yeah, that's mine.
So. Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I ended up going against John Helbig, and the highlight of the moment, honestly, that game was super close. He was actually it was really intense.
That one came down to priority, right?
Basically, it basically came down to priority, which means it's really close. And even though I had one priority, he still had a good chance. And the moment that was shining was so he had a Lothlorien Rohan mix, so he had Galadriel in his army, and he only needed one of my 3 objectives that I had for capture and control. He would have won. So I ended up putting one guy on on this one objective. I only put one guy on it. And I was kind of looking around, and I was like, all my other objectives had like multiple guys, or it was pretty clear cut. But that one guy needed to be on that objective to claim it. So I was like, well, he might shoot at me. And that was in my head. I was like, he might shoot at me. So I'll just put a second guy. I don't know. It's probably stupid. You're probably not going to get that shot off, but I'll go ahead and do it because he only had one archer. So he was fuming in his head because he knew I wasn't thinking about Galadriel. And so he came over there and he's like, I'm just going to do this. But he compelled one of my guys off of the objective. And he was like, dude, if you had not done this, I would have won the game. But it wasn't even about Galadriel. I didn't even think about her. I was like, that's my rust in the game. I was like, oh no, that one archer over there might get a shot.
That's why I feel like all of us were kind of rusty because we all have
so it was pretty. Yeah, the rust was showing on all my games for sure because there was like obvious shit. Even in the first game, I like didn't know like some rules. A player next to me had to tell me what the hell my Legion did. I was like, I get +1 fight? Like I didn't even know that.
Devin, was Radagast casting Compel again? Was that what was happening?
No. I knew that Helm
Bill
had
Pony give everybody Burley.
When I cast Nature's Wrath with Helm Hammerhand, I really felt like it was, part of his kit, but my opponent said no, that's not it. So I didn't get to actually cast spells this tournament. Next time, I'll cast Nature's Wrath with Faramir.
Sounds good. All right, so
I will pay you for it.
Exactly.
Did Faramir redeem himself in round 2, Rob?
Yeah. No, he didn't. He didn't redeem himself, but at least he didn't embarrass himself. Like he was a non-factor. So I was sitting tall on bottom table with my performance in round 1. I ran into Return of the King Legion, and we ended up playing Domination. And Hurin and Boromir, because I didn't trust Faramir to do anything, we're just going around killing ghosts until there weren't enough ghosts left to contest any of the objectives. And then I, speaking of the rust, I was like, oh, I can really seal this. I just need to get the leader killed. So I threw all my heroes and killed the King of the Dead. Oh, whoops! Not the Aragorn's the leader in the Legion by default. So it worked out okay because King of the Dead was sitting on an objective, so I was able to like flip it for full points. But that was a whoopsie.
So we all made a lot of whoopsies.
Yeah.
I feel like
it didn't hurt me in the end because I got the major win out of it. I got 4 out of the 5 objectives, and I broke him without being broken and all that stuff. But just forgot that Aragorn has to be leader in that one and not King of the Dead. Oops.
The part I really find amusing is the fact that you're calling it a whoopsie when you managed to get a 2-point objective by killing the King of the Dead by mistake, having actually been attempting to get a 1-point leader kill.
Yeah,
that's
100%.
Yeah,
like
100%.
Yep.
Like all these games were
Well, but the idea was that if I kill the King of the Dead, who's the leader, I get the objective and the leader kill, right? But whoops. That it all worked out.
It seriously happened almost every game. It was like something I forgot, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
Like
I know
the
exactly how you
fight
feel.
thing.
Yeah.
I went through a third of my game the first round, not even knowing about it. My opponent, neighbor, was like, "Hey, FYI."
Oh yeah, I think I just did the war cry once too in the game too, because someone's like, "Oh, why aren't you doing the war cry?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I get that.
I forgot."
Yeah. Oh shoot.
My third game, my opponent pointed out, he's like, "I don't think you threw throwing spears like most of the game," and I was like, "Fuck."
What now?
I'm proud to share a podcast with you guys.
Yeah, we're all professionals here.
Yeah.
And of course I'm the guy who managed to strike up against Elrond not once but twice, roll a 1 and end up thinking that I tied him with Rutabi. Even though it was 2 fight 6 leaders and I'm rolling a 1 and I was fight 7.
Oops.
Oops, not once, twice. All right, so Rainier, how did yours go?
My second or third?
Third.
Are we on third? We're on third now.
Yeah,
we're
we're
third. My third one, I played a prominent player in the U.S., Ted Cantu. So Ted is really good. He brought the Gonberry Gon and Theoden Legion.
Paths of the Druidon.
Yeah, Paths of Druidon. Really good. We play the scenario breakthrough to where it's like, I have 3, he has 3. We go destroy each other's things. I played very aggressive. I just pushed forward because he only had, I think, 24, 25 models. Many of them were the little dudes. And then
15 of them, right?
Yeah, I hit hard. I thought he played it poorly in the beginning, but I realized towards the end he was playing it very smart. He kept some of his heroes on the back, I guess, objectives, so I couldn't destroy them unless I killed them because he was just sitting on them with the horses that covered them. So I was like, oh, you're kind of doing this. You're like wasting your might in the back. So I hit really hard. But after I did that, I realized he did that because I couldn't really take them, and he took Theoden and Darrowine up the flank and just started getting all of my objectives. I was like, shoot, I gotta do something fast. So I hit really hard, broke him, killed his banner too, because there's banner points. We both had a banner. I killed his banner, and I think took 2, but it was another one where I was winning really hard, but actually objectively, it was really close. And I think if it wasn't for me killing his banner, which I did take, but if he positioned it differently, I wouldn't have taken it. I won, and I think I won that a minor victory again, like at 8-6 or 10-8 or something. So it was good. He's a really good player too. But back in the day, like 5 years ago, I used to castle a lot. Yeah. So it shocks people when I play extremely aggressive because that's my new play style, I guess. When I played with Khan, so I think I just played super aggressive with it. It was good. I had the numbers.
Gotcha. All right, Devin, how'd you do in round 3?
So my third one's my only loss. Spoilers for the fourth. And so I got a narrow loss of 4-2, but it honestly, in the beginning, I was just crushing through him. I mean, he was pretty frightened of Helm. He was playing a mini Steereth list with Hurin and Faramir. I got really lucky.
One of my supposed to,
yeah, that with a flag, and I got lucky. My throwing spears dismounted Boromir, and Hurin was going around just wrecking everything. So he pivoted, and this is actually one of the Syracuse players, plays with Nick Gardner up in New York all the time. He was good. Like he
took second place, right?
Yeah, he took second place. Yeah, like
really good.
He
super nice too.
Really nice guy, but he pivoted and went all objective focused and really outplayed me. I'll be honest, I don't think there's a lot. Like I can see some of the mistakes I did, but like once he went objective focused, it totally changed the dynamic of the game. I mean, I was still pummeling his army. I think I lost like 1 model, or I don't know, probably like 4 by the end of the game, and I almost basically broken him. But yeah, he pivoted. So I was honestly thinking, because of the way he was playing, I was like, all right, I'll just keep destroying you because you keep taking me on a straight on fight. And I went kind of too deep. So I was deep enough where I was going after his objectives, but he had like cav models that were just sweeping in mine. By the end of the game, though, it was 1 objective each, by the way it worked out. But yeah, I mean, I was doing everything to try to stop him. But he ended up winning 4-2 because last minute, like literally last turn, he killed my banner, and he had Boromir with flags.
So we were tied.
Yeah, we were broken. No one was broken because I was 1 model away, and he was 4-2. I destroyed one of his supplies. This was destroy the supplies. He called a breakthrough. Destroy the supplies. Yeah, so he got the banner.
Nice.
So, yeah, he got the banner bonus. So
this banner is really like.
Yeah. And it's only because, like I said, the last turn of the game, he ended up.
Yeah.
So, but it was good. It was super close, like really close. But it was he was outplaying me, to be honest.
Cool.
Nice. That
All right. So, Rob, did Faramir show his quality?
Oh my God, Faramir struck again. This time he. I'll just get to it. So I ended up playing Retrieval, so capture the flag against a almost 50 model Corsair Harad combo board.
Oh wow!
And I was like, well, this isn't ideal, but you do what you can. And I ended up kind of tricking him into. I used the terrain. There were like a lot of buildings, and because his army was so huge, I knew that if he got the flank on me, I was hosed. But I kind of tricked him into pinning between 2 buildings with the majority of his army, so he never really got his whole force to bear. And he had all of his Harad Cav intending to kind of flank me and come behind me. But I kept all my heroes in reserve out of being able to get shot, basically, but ready to kind of pounce on anything that came into my backfield. And he ended up taking the bait. He threw a Harad Cav into one of my models in the back, and I ended up getting Faramir, Hurin, and 2 cavalry models plus an infantry surrounding it, right? And I was like, well, we're gonna do the heroic combat for all ages kind of thing, and off to the races. And then Boromir hid on the other side of the board behind a building just so he doesn't get shot by crossbows and dehorsed, waiting to kind of jump out when he needs to. He shoots into the combat. Guess who he hits? Faramir's horse, and dehorses Faramir from the combat. Now, luckily, I rolled a 6 so that I was, fully functional on the throne rider.
Because he's Faramir and he's quality.
Right. And so then Hurin was, because he's a real model, was able to win the combat. We got the heroic combat off. I shot all my cav off into his remaining cavalry and essentially pinballed off of them all game, cleared the flank, and got behind his army, so that by the end of it, he was pinned on my army in the center. I had Hurin and all my cav in his backfield by the flag, and I had Boromir on the other flank. And then I just had Hurin. He moved, dismounted, picked up the objective. Boromir heroic marched all the way to the backfield. Basically, next turn, Hurin handed it to him, and when he could, Boromir marched twice and got off of my board edge, so I ended up getting his flag off of my edge. I ended up killing him to a man except for Dalamir, his leader, and at the end of it, Faramir was wounded. He fought Dalamir and a bunch of Corsairs 6 or 7 turns in a row and didn't have the good decency to die. So instead of not giving up any victory points for Hurin, he actually gave up victory points for not dying. Wow. But so I broke him without being broken. I got the flag off my corner, so I got the major. And Faramir screwed it all up by not dying, because Hurin was hiding, and if he had just died, Hurin would take over and he'd get no VP for killing my leader. As it is, he got 1. So Faramir strikes again.
I love how
he just kept winning combat against Dalamir. I was like, stop doing it.
I love how, Rob, that Faramir continues to survive your generalship, and you think that is somehow a weakness on his part.
But the thing is, like, at this point, I was deliberately trying to kill him. I was putting him in positions to die.
And you can't even do that right, Rob.
Valuable to me. But luckily, Hurin and Boromir got it done, and yeah, he never got anywhere close. Yeah, I killed all 45 or 46 of his models, so all he had left was Dalamir, and he had a couple really bad dice rounds where he was losing fights, and Corsairs have no armor, and once you start getting like that momentum against them and they start losing numbers, like they start to crumble, right?
They're fidgety. A lot of people assume that they're like a meta list and stuff, but they're very, very weak with their low defense. And they're very poor in combat if you're not like completely outnumbering or surrounding the opponent.
But fair play to him. He could have probably castled his oral army around his flag and just sat there all game and played for a draw. He played a game,
like the
right?
Players too. Like we had a lot of really nice players, and a lot of players that said, "I'm gonna have fun and make sure the game's fun for you as well." Over like my ego.
Yeah. So we had a really great game. Like the end result was a slaughter, but it was actually a good game. And my like sneaky pincer move cav tactic baton relay ended up working out. And then everyone forgets the Fellowship Boromir is heroic march, so he's going 15 inches a turn, right? So once he got the baton and he sat there for a turn, hoping not to get crossbowed, he was just off. So
I'm starting to notice this trend because Faramir's surviving in the movies, because Faramir's the only survivor of a 200-man cavalry charge, and also one of the few survivors of the raids in Aphelion.
Yeah,
I'm like,
how does he not die?
Sounds a little weird.
Well, at one point I was like, can I just voluntarily throw away his shield? Can I take off his armor?
Even still, like Faramir had oil on him. Denethor had oil on him. If Denethor burns, Faramir doesn't.
Faramir tans.
I love
about this guy.
I now have this image of Rob / Denethor like sending out Faramir on a feudal charge to die. Faramir's horse drags him back, so Rob Denethor sends him out on a second feudal charge to die.
Yeah.
Faramir's horse brings him back again.
Here's the thing, like in that situation, he could do 2 things. He could win the fight and wound Dalamir. Cool, leader points. Or he could die. Cool, I get more points. He did neither.
You know what? I would just see your opponents, just tell them, "Hey, FYI, Faramir has a special rule. He has plot armor."
Faramir is unkillable, even if you want him to die. Signed, Denethor.
All
Yeah,
right.
so that was my game 3. That was another major for me. So I was now on 2-1.
All right. So if I'm following this correctly, at the end of round 3, Rainier is 3-0, and Devin and Rob are both 2-1. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
All right. Rob having been dragged up to the 2-1 by Faramir's efforts and no one else.
Yes,
All right.
correct.
All right. So which tables were you on going into the last round here?
I was on table 1.
I was on 4.
I was on 3.
Okay. All right. So how did it go? So all right. So let's start with table 4. How did table 4 fight off go? Devin?
So table 4, all right, that honestly is what shot me up because it was a clean sweep, like devastating blow. I mean, I basically we kind of had to have fun with it because it was Maelstrom. He deployed Fed.
Which scenario?
He had
It was actually the guy I played in round 1 that smashed me, insultingly enough. And he had the Thranduil's Hall.
yeah.
All right. And what scenario was it?
It was Heirlooms of Ages Past.
Okay.
So
my favorite.
it was Maelstrom. So he had
With a
Thranduil.
veto, no less.
No, I purposely vetoed the one that I knew he wanted. So I vetoed the one he wanted, and then he vetoed the one, the worst second worst. Was like that was what it was, because he wanted hold ground. I'm like, I'm not letting that Thranduil bubble put in your whole army. So basically, he basically had Legolas and Thranduil split up on opposite ends of the map almost. So I deployed second, and I'm like, well, I'll just deploy my whole army and surround the hell out of Legolas and destroy his entire warband. And so, like, literally, within, I don't know, it took like 4 turns to do it because like stragglers. But I wiped out Legolas and his entire warband and lost 1 guy. And like, so half his army had disappeared at this point. So he's going around trying to desperately collect relics. But the problem was I had heroic march and he didn't. So I just marched up and stonewalled him. Like, and basically I collected all the relics except for the one furthest away from him. And I just ran that sucker away. So like, it was at a point where he's like, I literally don't have enough time. Like, so we played a game of it. I went ahead and just said, all right. Basically, we tried to give him a chance to kind of come back a little bit, but it was really hopeless. Like, Helm was crushing through L's. My L's were he was getting torn apart. Once Thranduil actually entered the fight, it kind of was, it became entertaining, but no, it was pretty much so despite the situation, I broke him, but I didn't get the leader kills, and he still had his banner. In fact, the only fight Helm lost the whole game was against his banner. It was the dumbest. I rolled 4 dice, 2s and 1s.
Amazing.
His banner rolled a 6. I was like, "Are you serious?" So, last turn of the game, and so I'm like, "All right, I guess I didn't kill his banner." So he kept his banner, so it was like 9-1, 9-2.
It was a Pharaoh banner.
Yeah, it was the weirdest.
So what was the score you did?
It was 9-2.
Man.
All right. And all right. So Rob, how did table 3 go?
So we ended up playing Hold Ground. I ended up vetoing Heirlooms, even though I think it probably was more favorable to me because I just hate it so much that I didn't want to play it, basically. And he chose Hold Ground. He had a Lothlorien Fellowship Alliance with Celeborn, Haldir, and Boromir. So it was going to be a Boromir mirror match. And this was actually a really tight, close game, but it kind of, he made a big mistake at the beginning. So Celeborn and Haldir came on together. They both rolled 6s, and he just brought them on together. Boromir rolled the one where I get to choose. And I was like, I get to choose where it comes. Do you want to might that? And he's like, nah, it'll be fine. I was like, are you sure? No take backs. Do you want to might that? And he's like, no, it'll be fine. So I put him, and then I blew all the might I needed to put my entire army next to Boromir and pin him right around there. And so long story short, within like 2 turns, Boromir was dead. All of like the majority of his might was gone, and like a huge mounted threat was out of my hair. And then I just clogged up the middle. And it just became a slog, right? So like he was killing stuff, I was killing stuff, and at the end I had double his models in the center, and he had killed my leader. Finally, Faramir died, but Hurin was alive, so we got nothing for that. And yeah, and it was just kind of a really tight slog in the middle, and it was a hard fought battle that ended up a major 8-0 to me, I think. But it was a lot closer. At least it felt a lot closer on the actual tabletop than that. But had Boromir been in the mix on his side, it would have totally changed the battle. And this is something me and Mick had talked about. Like, if you're in Maelstrom, burn the might early and do the thing you need to do, because what good is it going to be to you later? I took 6 mine off the board on like turn 2, right? And so I was going into it on like 3 or 4 might to his 4 or 5 or whatever, but I was able to put my army where I needed it to and eliminate a major threat. So like always spend the might in Maelstrom if it's going to be advantageous to you.
So remind me, when you have Hurin and you have your leader, if your leader is wounded and then dies, does the other guy still get the 1 point for wounding your leader?
Yeah, I
get
think
the
he
point for
should.
killing?
I don't think he does.
Yeah,
He
that's
just
what
gets no
my
points.
interpretation has always
There
been.
there
that
is an FAQ.
He should be
on it.
wounded.
I believe
There's definitely an FAQ.
Is
on
there?
it. Yeah, there's an FAQ.
Okay.
I forgot. I've read something about that. I don't know if someone wants to like. Try
Well, we can look that up later. But so long as Faramir dies and Hurin is alive, that is a good situation in my book. So, and he didn't do anything meaningful, but he killed an elf or something. Boromir and Hurin did all of the work, and then just D6 bodies getting in the way and rolling better than the other guy, right?
You know, actually, I'll just talk of her, and I totally forgot about it. Like my 3rd round where I lost, I was trying to kill Boromir to get the general points, and it wouldn't have done anything.
It wouldn't have done anything.
Yeah, no, you had Hurin.
And-
I was like, I like literally.
Hurin is the way.
My opponent probably was thinking to himself, like, yes.
And
Dude,
in
good.
Rob's
Boromir.
Yeah,
in
so
Rob's
that-
third
so I
game
ended
had.
on- what's up?
I was gonna say, and in Rob's third game, when you were like hoping that Faramir would die, so you would get the or avoid losing the point, it would not actually have avoided losing the point. You just would have had Faramir die.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I think that's its own reward. I wouldn't count that out.
For Rob,
Yeah,
it
so
certainly
I,
is.
I did get the major there, so I ended up on 3 major wins and 1 major loss is my overall for the tournament. So I'm generally happy with that.
All right,
And
so
yeah.
so Rainier, how did top table go?
So my last round, I went against Easterlings. Let's fix this real quick. The Easterlings had Rutabi, Amder mounted, and the caster Easterling. I forgot their name.
Thorgir,
Wow,
but no Emperor.
Oh,
No
because
Emperor.
600 points. I guess that
600
makes
points.
sense.
They didn't. But the
They would
thing
take the
is,
Emperor.
they had more models than most of the other armies I came up against. I did come up against some 20-something models with a lot of elites and cav and stuff. This list had, I think, the mid to high 30s. So I was like, oh, okay, so good upgrades where they're supposed to be, high defense, stuff like that. They Maelstrom first, which I think is the same mistake that Rob's opponent made, because they didn't might it up. I think Rutabi went, they didn't might it up, and it was heirlooms of past. So for some reason, I vetoed Old Ground, and there was heirlooms, and the one where you go to the 4 corners. They didn't want to do 4 corners after seeing that I have 3
that makes sense.
Crebain, 5 horse, and Thryden. So we did that. He did not might up Rutabi, so I put her in the corner. 6 inches away. She doesn't have heroic march or anything like that.
Rainier, nobody puts Rutabi in the corner.
Pardon?
Nobody puts Rutabi in the corner.
Yeah.
So nobody does what?
Nobody puts Rutabi in the corner.
Oh.
I put Rutabi in the corner.
He put her in the corner.
Sorry, just had to get the Dirty Dancing reference in there.
But then he put the other 2 warbands kind of close. I had the upper hand, I think, out of all of the scenarios, just because I could fly, get all the things, heirlooms.
Heirlooms is great for Crebain.
Heirlooms
Yeah.
is great, but I do see like he was kind of hard place which one to choose. But yeah, it was favored me that I could focus. I wound up having 2 heirlooms. One I had in the corner, and one he had. He decided not to test it because if it wasn't a 6. I would get mine automatically, and I pushed heavy everything towards that while Rutabi was in the corner. And again, the 5 archers pulled out and killed, I think, 3 or 4 Black Dragon pike upgrades. with Rutabi as they were coming. So they put the work in.
Dunlending archers, man. Who
They
knew?
did. He was a little too aggressive with Amder, though Amder didn't die. I think Amder killed like 10 of my guys. So I finally just was feeding Amder like stuff and like hoping he wasn't kill too much. I wound up last round wounding Rutabi, so that's general points. I got the heirloom, 6 points. I killed. He actually didn't have a banner. I had a banner, and I killed. I broke him. I think I quartered him, I believe. So it was an 11-0 victory.
Cool. All right. So how did it all end up coming out?
2 for me, 2 majors, 2 minors.
And I had for major minors, I had 2 majors, 1 minor, and 1 minor loss.
So 3 major wins, 1 major loss.
All right. So how did the tournament stats come out?
So it came out kind of funny. Well,
So-
well, his is obvious.
I
so-
got first place, so that was nice.
So in the end, Devin and I were tied for 3rd. We had the same wins, we had the same tournament points, and we had the same victory points. But he had a 0.25% greater strength of schedule, so he jumped to 3rd and I took 4th.
Yeah.
And I
just
don't even know how that math works,
really
but I
wanted to
just know
stick
that
it
it's
to him.
BS.
Yeah, Faramir just told me, he's like, I'm going to give you this.
Exactly.
I want you to
know
be
what?
my
You're
father,
right. Somehow
Devin.
it is his fault. I'm sure of it.
Devin, I want you to be my father. Mine sucks.
He tries to smother me with a pillow when you're not looking.
So you're saying Devin took 3rd on strength of character.
Yeah, so I was 3rd place.
Yeah.
And
All right.
Rob was
So we went 1, 3, 4.
1, 3, 4.
Cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And then the guy who beat me in the 3rd round took 2nd.
Gotcha.
So it was good because
Yeah, it's a good showing
none of
overall.
us brought, I guess, powerless.
Yeah, all of us brought-
legions were everywhere, to be honest. Like, everyone almost brought a legion.
And we all brought something we haven't played before, which is, kind of an interesting way to go about it.
One interesting thing for me was that we've been seeing just evil dominate everywhere, but it seemed like it was at least a 50-50 split here between good and evil, or maybe even more good than evil, which was different. So
I
How-
heard something about like 15 good and like 6 evil or something like that.
Actually, yeah,
Which is
I think
It was
definitely
definitely a
might have been.
swing
very-
toward good.
it was swinging
Very
more
far
towards
But
from
good
because
than
there are a
evil.
lot of good legions. Like you had the Mirkwood Legion, you brought Helmhammer had Legion, you had the Woes Legion.
You had
A
Return of the
lot of
King.
the good legions that don't shine at higher points levels do shine at lower, like here. So I imagine a lot of them brought it.
I don't know if I saw any Salt on Lothlorians. I did
I
see
saw one actually.
there was at least one, I think, right? So,
But yeah, I mean,
but not what I would have expected, which is like 3 of them, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
But overall, and the rounds we mentioned there, an hour and a half.
oh yeah, they were very
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah,
Which was-
round. So
which was
that
actually
actually
awesome.
it was amazing, and it really changed the strategy of it. So like an hour and a half games, no one can really castle or like shoot heavy. You really had to like go and start combat really early, go for the objectives. There's no time wasted. I feel like.
Yeah, you
Which I
really
like.
didn't have the time to like think too hard about your decisions either. Like you had to constantly be moving because you're playing against the clock, and especially when you factor in like deployment and the normal things. You're talking through the mission, which already eats up some time at the beginning. It was really I kept saying it felt almost like speed dating for SVG, right? Like because it was rounds that were back to back and they were really quick, and it was really cool. I really enjoyed it because it just felt really different to your standard like 2.5. We're gonna dance around each other for an hour and a half and then maybe play the game for an hour. We'll see, kind of thing. It was really cool.
The only danger of it, which didn't happen this whole tournament, not that I heard of anyway, is anyone who wanted to be a butthead could slow play it pretty easily as well.
Yeah.
And then but yeah, nobody did that. Like it was really actually I heard more instances of people like playing faster to give their opponent a solid chance to come back.
Very
So
nice.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed that. It was different, and I really enjoyed it. Combined with the 600 points, so it was already like smaller armies on the whole as well. It was an interesting experience.
I would have thought not many games would come to conclusion, but I was shocked with the speed of it. Many games came to conclusion. Just how fast people were playing, how small the armies were, and how just like considerate everybody was.
and I think for playing it all in one day, an hour and a half is about tops for 4 rounds. So that's he did it right with that.
It didn't feel too bad.
It didn't. No, I really didn't feel too tired at all.
It's not like Articon where by the end of the 4-day game you feel like you want to amputate your own legs and jump out a window.
Well, we love Articon. What was it? But you guys had like air conditioning issues or like a bunch of
Leaving that aside, just like 4 full games on your feet, right? Like,
well, and it's 4 full games, each one of which is against
but
it
was also player. After 3 days of game.
Right.
You guys did doubles and
that's true.
Chaos and Art and Masters. Like Evan had a joyous time over there playing to death.
But even that 1 year, couple years back now, where Nova was 800 points in 4 rounds in 1 day.
Yeah,
and that was like
that was
at the
brutal.
end of that,
Matt
you
and I
just
were
wanted
playing,
to inject coffee right into your vein.
Yeah,
we're moving each other's models.
That admittedly,
it was like, did you get priority? And we're like, what even is priority?
What game are we playing?
What game are we playing? Yeah, that's right.
The speed of the rounds, though, really made you need to know your army. Because remember, I told you like there was a 3rd game where I totally forgot throwing spears. It's because once he started scrambling toward my objectives, I was just moving. I was just like, oh fuck. So you like forget what
But it was nice. It was like pushing models. You weren't like pristine, like, oh, let's do this. Oh, let me get like at least 1 more wound before combat happens. It was just like go.
It also just it made me play just very aggressively, right? Because so for example, in game 1, it's assassination. He has Legolas as his assassin. If I just like I just have to push him early before I can really like sit back in position. So that's why I just have to throw everything in. And in all the games, it just forced you to play very aggressively, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
because it wasn't this like dance castle, shoot me to death kind of thing.
All right, so why don't we do this then? Why don't we? So we're going to shift to the list building phase of this. So why don't we go through the process of how you came up with your, what your lists were and how you came up with them, with an emphasis on, kind of what your thought process is in preparing for a tournament and putting together a tournament list.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with Rob, since you were probably the happiest with your list, and talk through your process, which I think if I can sum up is come up with a couple of lists, ask your opponent which one they would prefer to play against, and then play that one.
It's a veto system with my own lists. I just give my opponent a multiple choice. So, also, I mean, going into the event, I knew I was going to be playing Gondor because it's painted. I know it well. I was just on vacation right before the event, so I knew I wasn't going to have a lot of time to think about it or put together a new army to paint, for example. So generally, the way I approach list building is probably fairly standard. There's like six rules I follow, right? One, have the ability to either redeploy or move your army fast. So that usually means heroic march, or you're playing something like all cab or have a drummer, but basically have march or something like that. 2, bring something with strike, and ideally multiple things with strike, so that you have more than one threat that you can put pressure on the opponent with, and also challenge their models. 3, have an ability to reliably kill high defense models. So I like to have something that has a +1 to wound in it. Just because if you run into dwarves or like Men of the Dead or any of those, you need to have something that can reliably kill models. With D6, as long as you have strength 4 heroes, at least they can get the work, but D7 plus, it starts to get hairy. And then the general metric, like the 20-to-1 ratio of models and the 100-to-1 ratio of might, right? So have a model per 20 points and a might per 100 points minimum, if possible. Now, sometimes that changes. Like if you're playing Iron Hills and they're all going to be defense 8, you can have a little bit less. If you're playing Horde with crappy defense, you have more. But like at least you're trying to hit that general metric. And then a couple fast-moving models that you can use for scenarios, right? So that they can zip around and grab objectives. I think that's probably a very common set of pillars for everyone. I don't think that's going to be very controversial. If I had to say a 7th one, bring something that's not going to bore me to death. So I'm going to have fun, because I find that if I play something that I have fun with, I'm going to do better than if I bring something I hate, even if it's, good. But that's kind of just me. So with that in mind, I ended up, and I prepared, essentially 3 lists, and I went with the worst one. But my final list, following kind of those general metrics, was my leader was Faramir, long may he rest one day. He had a lance, shield, heavy armor, and horse. And he had 4 warriors and ministerial with shield, 3 warriors with spear and shield, 1 warrior with shield and banner, 2 fountain court guard with shields, 4 rangers of Gondor with spears, and 1 knight of ministerial with shield. My second warband was Hurin on his horse, and he had essentially an identical warband. So 4 warriors with shield, 3 spear and shield, 4 rangers with spear, 2 fountain court and a knight. And then Boromir of Gondor, the allied in from the Fellowship, with a shield and a horse, which comes to 600 point exactly, 32 models, and 12 might. The other variants of the list were essentially identical in terms of the warbands, but one of them brought Elisar with Hurin instead of the 3 heroes, and another one would have just had Boromir with the flag and Hurin, and maybe like a small hero, probably like a Baragon on horse or something, just to fill out the points, because it would have been a little bit under points, which would have been great for like scenario play, honestly, or just upgrade a bunch of stuff to Fountain Court. Overall, I think the theory of it was it's 600 points, and it's 1.5 hour rounds. So I really wanted to have heroes that were fast moving and hard hitting so that they could apply pressure and apply multiple threat vectors, right? So 1 threat can be easily neutralized by a magic user like a ring wraith or just, you know, good counterplay. 2 threats gets a little bit harder because one of them is probably getting through. 3 threats you generally can't handle all 3, right? So one of them is going to be giving you a hard time, and then 2 you're going to have to try to manage. Now, unfortunately, I made a huge mistake because I forgot that Faramir's not actually a threat; he's actually a liability. But the theory of it was at least sound. I had 3 fast-moving mounted models. 2 of them had +1s to wound, so if I ran into like the Men of the Dead or a D7 plus army, they could take him out. Boromir has March. They all 3 of them have Strike, and then I had 8 bows, which is just about my bow limit, that shoot on 3s. I'd fight 4 spears everywhere, and I had D6, but usually D7 with shield wall. And 32 models was just above that 20-to-1 ratio. So following those kinds of pillars, that's what I came up with. In the end, the army that took second with Boromir, with Flag and Hurin is the one I really should have run, and that's my usual go-to. And it's part of the reason I didn't run it was because it's my usual go-to, and I wanted to try something new. And Elisar might have been a better bet. Yeah, I would have had a lot less might, but I would have had Mighty Hero. But Fellowship Boromir is so much fun to play, and with no Lady of Light, he's not seen as often, right? But at 600 points, I figured this should be fun, and I think that he'll complement the list nicely with his Might Store and his March. So that's what I went with, and that's what I came up with, and and went 3-1 and ended up 4th, except for some strength of schedule nonsense.
Which is the first time I've ever seen a podium win on strength of schedule.
Yeah, I don't even know how that happens, but it was all good, and I'm happy with all jokes about Faramir aside, and don't get me wrong, like the weird thing about that model is on paper he's fine. There's nothing wrong with Faramir on paper, but he just never shows up for me. It's just some metaphysical curse of being Faramir that he never shows up in the way that I want him to.
It is just your lack of regard for him, Rob.
It could very well be my lack of regard for him, because like Hurin is objectively worse on stats and always does it for me, and Faramir is just sitting there whining about daddy not loving him and not, making the plays he needs to. But in
you're his
theory, there's
daddy.
nothing wrong, right? Like he's 3 attacks with a lance on the charge. He has strike. He has defense. Like objectively, he's fine. I don't know why he just never shows up.
Rob, maybe if you were more present for him in his earlier years, he would have less daddy issues.
Yes.
Well, he was off fighting imaginary dragons instead of being a real soldier like his brother.
Yeah. Rob, I'm sure it's nothing that years of therapy can't fix.
Faramir was the whole.
I'm going to need years of therapy that can't be fixed after what he did to me today.
Faramir was the whole inspiration for my list. I just analyzed what opponents would fail to kill Faramir, and I figured if I fought opponents that were like 0.25% better than those opponents, I could win.
0.25%. I'm going to put that on a t-shirt for Devin and just make him wear it.
Okay, so Devin, why don't you talk about the 0.25% solution?
Yeah, mine is. I mean, I can almost save a lot of the in-depth analysis that Rob did, because I just made my army this morning, and I was like, yeah, I was like, well, Henry's Helm's Deep list sounds pretty cool, and it's 600 points, so that's about where it shines.
So what you're saying is your process is intellectual IP theft.
Yeah, pretty much for this tournament. Yeah.
Copy somebody else who's successful. I have to admit, I've done that on occasion.
No, I'm not even kidding when I say I literally found the old podcast that we talked about it on. So Henry would repeat his list, and then I redesigned my list based on what he said.
By the way, it's not Henry's list; it's Henry's opponent's list.
No, it was Henry's opponent. You're right.
Yeah.
So the Aussie out there who inspired me, I appreciate you.
The one who lives in Henry's nightmares.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
But that was it. That was honestly like so. I mean, as far as the list analysis, the best I could go into is the 3 threats that Rob was talking about. The sheer amount of throwing spears creates a significant threat. And then you have Helm. So I only have like 2 threats is really I would call it, because I only have 32 models. Helm Hammerhand, 8 Royal Guard with throwing spears, 8 Warriors Rohan throwing spears, a banner, 2 Cav in that unit, which is 1 with a throwing spear, 1 without. And then it's a captain with 6 Royal Guard throwing spears, 5 Warriors Rohan throwing spears, and 1 Rider. No throwing spear. Came up to 599 points. So yeah, that was it. I just copied Henry's list.
It's a solid list.
It is a
honestly.
solid list.
I like it a
How many
lot.
models was it?
32.
32. That's good.
If I had the time, I probably would have brought Helm here too.
Yeah.
It's like 600 points, and this format is a really great format for Helm, and I'd love to try it. So I'm
Exactly.
glad
And you don't see too many tournaments at 600 points. So I was like, oh, this is the time to bring it. So,
Which is another thing I enjoyed. I didn't think I would, but I enjoyed the 600
It was
points.
really fun.
All right, so Rainier, how did you come up with your Dunlin victory?
So you guys know me. There's just one thing I like, and that's evil men and lots of them.
Loves them.
Love them. Can't give me enough of them. So basically,
loves evil man.
they were on my bucket list to play. I painted them in Korea, and I never played them. Again, I have kind of like a personal, I want to say like bucket list to place or win with all of the evil men factions, and I haven't done it with Dunland or played them in general. So I brought them for that sole reason. I really liked how they played though. I think you can go heavy on something at a 600 point list that most other people can't go heavy on. So I'll read my list off real quick. I had Thryden on horse, 2 Cav, 1 Crabane, 4 Huskarls, 2 Bow, 1 Wildman, 4 Axe with Shield, and 1 Banner. I had Girl, 3 Bow, 1 Crabane, 2 Cav, 3 Huskarl, and 3 with Shield. And then I had a Wild Chieftain with 10 Wildmen with Axe, 1 Cav, and 1 Creedbane. So basically, I went heavy on things that I always talked that I did not want to on the podcast.
You went
7
heavy on
Huskarls.
Cav and Huskarls.
Yeah, 7 Huskarls, 5 Cavs, 6 with Thryden, only 5 Bows, which I think really played well at a 1.5 hour game, and 3 Crabane. I really do like 3 Crabane because no one can contest the objectives when I have 3
Crabane is so annoying.
Yes, and they can stop broke combats, for example, throw them into a Faramir.
You don't need to waste them on
4
that.
wounds, they can't broke combat anything. So I use them a lot in the objectives, and when I did not need them for objectives, I use them to delay.
It's great use for them, yeah.
And then
You have the fastest Dunlending army that I've seen because you played so many of the Cavs. Normally, people play like 2, 3.
yeah, and
But that really
can.
played to the event.
It did play to the event,
Played to the event.
and I maxed out my war bands, and I was like, shoot, I still have like 40 something points left. What do I do with it? And then I just realized I can upgrade everything and take basically everything that I wanted. And that was more Huskarls, so I had battle lines, 1 extra Crabane, and a ton of Cav, and I felt like it did really good. And what shocks me too is that with the Axe Wildman, strength 4 and strength 5 potentially with everyone else, they just killed. And I had 42 models, so like when I died, it was okay. When they died, it was not okay. Because you had 20 something to 30 something models, and it just really helped. The 30 something models allowed me to rogue combat, use my heroes really well. The 20 something models really allowed me to maneuver and kill 1 for 1 or 2 for 1, and it really favored me. So yeah, I would say I loved it. I'd love to play it again, and I just I just really enjoyed it.
Cool. All right. So I think for the next phase, what we're going to do is we're going to have Evan
Actually,
build. Yeah.
I'm just noticing a small honorable mention. A love how he's so devoted to evil men that he had the chance to play an evil woman and didn't even do it.
I didn't. I just go one way.
Rainier.
Too busy putting Tabi in a corner.
It's not really, evil women are not really his thing.
Rainier saw that.
I would have tall spear, or I could have that psychopath who chops his hand open and bleeds. And he was
Rainier saw that.
What did you call
saw
him
that
initially?
FAQ.
Yeah, I called him Wild Dude because I forgot his name. I was like, they're like, and who do you have? I was like, I have Thryden, Geralt, and I couldn't read my handwriting, so I was like, Gandalf, who's Gandalf? Geralt. And then I was like, Wild Dude, because I totally opened it, right?
Wow,
We were
dude.
talking before the event, and I was asking him which list to play, and he was giving me bad advice.
Bad advice.
And then I was looking at his list, and I just saw Raiden, Wild Dude, and I was like, love it. I knew exactly who he meant.
By the way, Rob, it really depends on your perspective as to whether it was bad advice or not. From Rainier's perspective, it was perfectly good advice.
It was really good advice.
It was excellent advice. It was the best advice.
But I was like pleasant surprised. None of us played each other, which is quite rare. You know what I mean? Because we were all hovering on the top tables for most of the event. So
I mean, I was too busy fighting opponents who were 0.25 better than his.
I was fighting the 0.25 force opponents. On that note, though, I would say I knew over half of the people who came to the tournament, and I didn't find a single person I knew, which was really refreshing.
All my opponents were people I've never went against before.
All right, so I think for the last phase here, we're gonna have Evan build a list. Evan, are you gonna build a 600-point list?
I had 800 in mind just because that gives more room to play with.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so Evan's going to build us an 800-point list. So, Evan, why don't you show your screen, and we'll actually see a list being built in real time, and we can all pick Evan's brain as to why he's thinking about what he's doing.
Yeah, so the list I have in mind to sort of look through my thought process is actually a list that I built about a year ago for a tournament. Actually,
that's old news. Build something new.
Yeah, come on, man.
Where your Kerbang?
So far, I'm seeing a serious lack of bowmen here.
Yeah, I know. So basically, my list building thought process has sort of changed over time. Now I basically just sort of throw whatever I want to play, and I just sort of throw it out there. But back then I was a good list builder, so I'll go over my thought process at the time. So and I guess I'll apply it to sort of the meta now. So I'm kind of different, I guess, from sort of Rob. I don't really follow like list building rules, I guess.
You don't ask your opponent what they'd rather face?
No, I'm not very into that, actually. I actually have a different trick, which is I will ask Dad, and then whatever he gives as advice, I will do the exact opposite of.
It's very smart.
He knows nothing about list building.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is the teenage rule, right?
Yeah, and it's worked for me so far. So why not now?
And being old and cunning as I am, when we're going to a tournament facing each other, he says, "What should I take, Dad?" I tell him what I actually think he should take, and then I know he won't do that.
Yeah, that's the trick.
Applies to toddlers too, with less intelligible words.
Yep.
So, well, basically what I used to do was I would ask myself, what am I going to see at this tournament, and what's good right now? And then I would model my list sort of off of that, trying to beat what I thought I was going to see and take aspects of what's good. So analyzing the meta right now really quickly, you see a lot of heavy shooting armies, the assault lists in general. Both of them are very good. I've seen a lot of decently low courage lately with some generic evil armies and whatnot. So just looking at it, I thought that Mordor would probably be a good list to start with. And then I sort of asked myself when I'm making a list, okay, what's good in this list? What are good heroes to take? So for Mordor, looking at models just points wise, stuff that's good. You've got Shadow Lord, very good against shooting, which is sort of meta now, and the Witch King, because he's the Witch King. And then that's sort of my main concept for heroes. I'll say, okay, what hero is good? Just putting the Witch King down as my army leader here because he is the hero of legends. And then I'll give them, I don't know, the basic stuff that you might want for them. So going 3 might, extra will, extra fate in there. I'm not going to
And
mount
of
them
course
yet.
of course the Morgul crown.
Yes, take the crown always. So I like to leave my options open, so not choosing mounts yet, but basically taking what's good. And then I sort of ask myself, okay, what troops are good? So looking through here, I think everybody knows what troop I'm taking, Black Numenorians.
I was gonna say
They're,
stalkers, man. Morgul stalkers.
yes,
Good.
Mounted
stalkers.
trackers.
Yeah.
Stalkers
Really
are
mounted
broken,
trackers.
so I take a lot of stalkers. So yeah, I'll just fill up my list with some of them right now, and then picking other warriors. Uh, that's a sort of personal preference thing, but I like to pick cheap warriors. Other people like more expensive warriors. So I just like to go with orcs, but that's really down to personal preference. Let's put a banner in there. Why not? Um, get some more warriors in there. And basically, I make a base for my army. So this can sort of be my base for my army. This is the concept I want. It's like 500-ish points, and then I can start adding on fancy stuff afterwards. So that's what's good. And then I don't know how you guys do it, but once I make a base, I start trying to identify holes in my army. So what is missing from the army that I think I need? So right now, what's good with the army is that if it sticks together, it's got a huge terror wall. It's super powerful. It's got obviously 2 ring rates, so it's got a lot of tricks. So let's add sort of like a glue model, I guess, something that'll help the army stick together, patch up some of its weaknesses, keep it together. And if I can find a model like that, Guritz, let's go with Guritz. It's got its profile wrong here, but we all know what Guritz does. He's got the 3 might, he's got the march, and he helps you out on Maelstrom. So that'll help keep your army together. And I guess add some more guys in his warband because why not? But doing pretty well here. So on my screen, okay, so we've got good numbers as well. From this angle, it looks like we've got around 41, so that's probably what I'm aiming for. It could go higher, could go lower, but that seems about right. So we've sort of made a cohesive army in a sense. Now I like to add on either something fun, something that I think the army's missing. So looking back at things that are good right now, maneuverability, tricks, uh, and things to counter that are maybe good against this list, I think elves are a big thing that this list will struggle with. So I either will try to find something in the list or I'll try to find some sort of ally. Let's say denizens, for example. So something like the Spider Queen sort of naturally fits into this kind of list because one, it allows it to deal with that sort of fight value deficit that you see with the Black Numenorians and Gurits and Ring Wraiths and all that. And it also gives you more tricks, more maneuverability, so it adds on an extra layer of power, because that's something that a lot of lists want nowadays. They want to be really good at something, and that's what this list does. It's really good at maneuvering around and getting where you want to be. So what's good in the Dark Denizens list? Same process. What is a good warrior to use? Bat Swarm. I like to take one maybe more, but it's a good warrior, and it synergizes well with your low fight value around across the board, and can help against those tricky matchups with like elves and heroes and whatnot. And then this is sort of just finishing stuff up. Looks like we're missing some like fast moving models on their own. We've got the bat swarm, but we can add a bit more, maybe a couple of fell wargs.
You got to mount your ring wraiths.
Yes, I do have to mount my ring wraiths, and do a couple of other things as well. And that's sort of where a lot of the personal preference comes in, which is just like, how do you want the individual parts of your list to function, and what do you want to do with them? This is something I'm comfortable with, but it might not be for you. So let's see our mounts. So I think in this it would be good if we had perhaps another flying model, because we do have a bat swarm as a flying model, but we have the option to take a fell beast on a ring wraith. So to make up points, 45 is a good amount of models, but I don't think that's entirely necessary for what I want here. I'll drop it down a bit, get a couple of extra points to make things easier. We'll go with like that, and then I can mount my ring wraiths. So 2 options here, and this is totally down to personal preference. You can either do, let's see here, we can mount the Witch King on a horse and then do the Shadow Lord on Fell Beast, or Shadow Lord on horse and Witch King on Fell Beast. And that's up to the person making the list. But I think in this particular case, I like the triple threat of Spider Queen, Shadow Lord on Fell Beast, Witch King. So I'll go with that. And we just need to make up some points here. Let's add a little bit extra to this list. We're missing some bowmen, so let's get some bowmen. Do a couple of trackers in there. And then we're a little bit high on points. So let's delete an orc. So that's just like basic, like really quick. So my process would be come up with an idea, find a list that fits that idea, figure out what's strong in that list, what you want to take, make a base, and then just sort of add in models that work well with that base and that help patch up the bad matchups while still maintaining your idea that you want to achieve. So this list here, I think, sort of unconsciously follows a lot of the rules that Rob and Rainier and Devin were sort of talking about, because it's got multiple strikes. It's got the Witch King and the Spider Queen. It's got that triple threat with the Witch King, the Shadow Lord, and the Spider Queen. It's got March with Gurits. It's got a lot of maneuverability with a lot of different fast moving models in there, with the Wargs, the Bat Swarm, Spider Queen, mounted ring wraiths. And it's got a solid amount of numbers. Obviously 38 is nothing huge, but it gets the job done. And some flexibility with the trackers in there as well. So that's sort of how I think about things. Indeed.
All right, cool. So I think, that's a good process. It's kind of interesting to see, kind of the differences in focus. I mean, I tend to build lists kind of more like Rob does, where I choose the heroes, and then I say, all right, these are the heroes that I want, and I kind of build an army around them. Whereas you will pick, a couple of heroes, fill out their war bands, and then kind of build an army around that. And both are sound ways to build armies. So that's cool. So guys, I know you guys have had a long day. It's been a long tournament and a hard fought tournament. Congratulations to all of you. And congratulations to Faramir for managing to survive 3 games under Rob's generalship, despite Rob continually sending him out to die. He keeps on coming back. So hey, Rainier, it was great seeing you again.
It was so great seeing you, like, for real, and like hugging and talking, right?
Yeah.
Nobody knows why I'm actually here in the States. Is my job messed up my paperwork, and I had to come get my paperwork apostoled in Pennsylvania. So they're like, "When should you go?" And I was like, November 5th, probably.
Yeah. By the way, I love how you're flipping the narrative, Rainier, and you ended up being like an illegal worker an American illegal worker in Central
My work's
America.
literally paying me for this, Matt, and I love every single deal. It's amazing.
How much longer are you going to be here, Rainier, before you head back?
I leave tomorrow at 6 a.m. So
all right, so this is
just enough time to get some Chick-fil-A in you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the good thing is Honduras is closer than Korea, so I think I'll be here more often, most likely next summer for an event or something like that. So we'll see.
So
awesome to see you.
It is
in
good.
person.
It is good.
Yeah.
I saw Rob and I like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, we ran into each other in the
holy
lobby, and it was like a slow motion run hug.
smokes. Through our models and stuff.
well, if you can make it back up, Rainier, I think Alisher's running another tournament down there. I think it's maybe the 3rd weekend in January.
Actually, I got a free ticket because I won the event.
Yeah,
to go.
well, Evan and I will be down there for that.
I'll see. Realistically, no, because I think I just have weekends off in January.
Yep.
But we'll see. Maybe, hopefully, they mess up some more paperwork and I have to come back to Pennsylvania. Right. If not, I think I'll be back here in June or July.
All right, sounds good.
Probably something in June or July.
In Articon, are you coming back for Articon?
It depends. Articon's literally a week too late to when my school semester starts because I'm a teacher. I could possibly skip orientation, but I have to talk to my school about that. So it's a possibility. We'll see.
Well, it was great seeing you. All right, everybody. I think that's going to do it for tonight. So thanks for popping by and listening to us. Bye, everybody.
You guys.